Well, hello everyone. I see that it's 1 p.m. Central, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll just go over a few announcements as everybody gets logged on here, and then I'll hand it over to our presenters today. But welcome to our quarterly CSTP conference call. My name's Jenny Parker, and I'm the coordinator for all things CSTP. So if you ever have any questions or looking for ways to get involved, you can always shoot me a message. I'm always happy to hear from everybody that's a part of CSTP. And so if this is your first time, welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm gonna pop in the chat just some helpful links to help navigate through all of the different offerings and things going on for CSTP. And so the first couple of links are if you are not on our distribution list, you can subscribe so that you get all of our newsletters, our call invites, like this one. They all go out through our distribution list, and we only send out the call invites and the newsletter, so you don't have to worry about getting spammed. I know everybody has enough emails as it is, so go ahead and join our distribution list with that first link. The second link is if you are looking for ways to get involved with CSTP, perhaps you would like to lead a conference call like this one, or you'd like to contribute to our quarterly newsletter. I'm always looking for presenters or for submissions to the newsletter. And when you fill out this form, it just comes to me as just a little message that says, this person has some ideas. So don't feel like it, puts you set in stone. You have to write an article or something like that. Things come up for people and the schedules change. And so I'm really understanding of that. But if you do have some ideas and you want to share or look to get involved, that's the form to fill out there. The next two are our invites to our next networking call and our conference call. Our networking call will be next month, and there's no formal presentation. It's just an opportunity for everyone to get together, to share things that are going on in your state or your office, and just to be able to share and kind of think with other people. What if you have a struggle or something, get ideas from other departments on what they're doing, or if you've had a success in your area and you want to share with other people what you did to achieve that. That's kind of what those meetings are for. So they're a lot of fun. And then, of course, our next conference call like this one, where there will be a presentation. And then my last couple of links here are for our archives. So we have a newsletter archive, which kind of lets you go back through. It's one handy place for all of our past newsletters, so you can see what people have written about before, get some ideas for maybe what you'd like to see in the next newsletter if you do have some ideas. And then our conference call archive. So we record all of these calls and then upload them to YouTube so that you can go back later, or if you have to leave early, or if you miss one, you can go back and watch it. And so those are kind of my helpful links. Of course, you can reach out at any time if you have other questions or any ideas that you'd like to share. Like I said, always happy to hear from all of you, and so glad that you all are here today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our presenters.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to share a little bit of time with me and my colleague, James Murray. My name is Janice McDaniel. I am a program specialist with the Division of Policy and Training for the Office of Child Support Services. And with me, sort of in the background running things, is James Murray. James is a senior advisor to the commissioner at OCSS. He deals a lot with fatherhood initiatives as well as military and veterans issues. And he is one of the primary forces behind the training guide that we are going to show you. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to let you know that the office does a lot of work with the militaries. And so we were very happy to be able to put this presentation together. This guide was done in October of 2023. It was updated at that time, and it's designed to help trainers at all levels, whether you're a beginner trainer or you are a seasoned trainer, to help put together presentations to assist caseworkers in their work with military personnel and veterans. So as you go to the next slide, you will notice that it's a comprehensive guide. We have an introductory model along with 9 different modules, and we'll sort of go through those. Each module contains extensive trainer notes, content outlines, and sort of lists all the training aids you will need, the handouts and the slides. Going on, we will sort of go ahead to talk about how to use the training guide. And so as we decided how to best do this presentation, James and I thought it might be most helpful to show you just in fact how easy it is to use and how to utilize it. And again, whether or not you are just into training or you are a seasoned trainer, we hope that it will be beneficial for you. We also hope that as you start to use it, if there are things you think would be helpful to include or something that would make it easier for other trainers to use, you would let us know so that we can incorporate that in our next edition. We hope to be able to update it on a regular basis. And so with that, we're going to go right into the trainer's guide. So on the next slide, we have provided a link to the training guide. It is on our website. You can find it under the OCSS page. All you have to do is type in military or veterans and it will come up. And with that, we're going to go right into the demonstration. So, James. And James is sort of giving you an example now of how you can just get into it. He is on our main landing page for OCSS, and he is going directly to the training guide. You will notice we do have a lot of resources available for veterans in training, and we offer those up to you to use at any time. And so right now, we're just going to go right into our module for trainers. This is something that will only be shared with the trainers. You will be able to access it off the internet, and you will be able to use it. So if we go to the next page, you will see that you have everything you need to do this training presentation, all 9 modules. I'm not going to read everything to you, but we are sort of going to go through the introductory module. We'll go through the first module just to give you an example how things are laid out, and then we'll go through some of the handouts that are available for the first module. So the first thing, we tell you exactly what you need to say or do. We don't expect you to follow this, word for word. We want you to tailor it to your, preferences. Like I said, some of you will be newer, and so having things written out more will be more helpful. Some of you seasoned trainers will adapt it to your own style. You'll be able to share the information that you need. But when you look at this, it'll tell you that you need to read the introduction on the next page. It tells you which PowerPoint slide that you will need to provide. It lets you know how long each module will take. It tells you a little bit about the course, of what the how the PowerPoints are embedded, and also helpful, especially for the world that we're living in today. We will walk you through virtual variations of this presentation. So if you need to present it virtually, that information is there. We have tips to help you be more effective in the virtual presentation. And then we have all the equipment, supplies, the PowerPoint slides, and the handouts you will need. Now, some of you will use all of the equipment or supplies that are listed here or recommended, or just have them handy. Some of them will make, this your own presentation. You'll find that you don't need to use these, but just in case, we've sort of gone through the presentation, figured out what seems to work best very generally, and provided all of that information so that you will have it. And so as we move down, you'll see that we have information on how long the module is going to take, what we hope to present. What you see here is what comes into the presenters page. The only thing that the participants or the class will see is basically that first module, which says the introduction. So we again are providing information for you to share on the basics of the course and its purpose, which is to equip child support workers with the information they need to effectively process military cases. What we would like people to know, you to know, that the content was developed with extensive input from the Department of Defense, some of their representatives, and we did reach out to child support workers from agencies who work closely with military and veterans' families. We have proposed a course that we hope is interactive. It will involve a lot of participation from those who are participating. And so we hope that in the end, it actually does help caseworkers work with military and veteran families. So you'll see again, we've set out everything you need. This is one of the first sessions. There's a suggestion that you diagram the layout of seats in the room, and that's actually for a warm-up exercise that we propose. We want you to be able to introduce yourself as a trainer, express some of your interests, your background, explain why you're involved in child support, perhaps whatever you would like to do. We like to have participants introduce themselves, get to know each other, talk a little bit about their work, maybe what they do. And then we propose a warm-up exercise, a bingo game. Tells you how many minutes to allow for that game. Go step by step on how to complete it. And then as you move down, you will note that we talk about the importance of the first 30 minutes of this presentation. And what we note is that you want to establish a climate that makes participants feel comfortable, relaxed, and eager to learn. And so we think one way to do this is through the warm-up exercises. As you go through it, you will note that we talk about what you need to do with the flip chart. You need to tape it on the wall, or you use a whiteboard. We don't expect, again, you to follow this word for word. We want you to tailor it to your own situation. But we do want you to be comfortable enough when presenting this material, because we do want it presented, that you can develop your own training session from this. I forgot to mention, and I apologize, if you have any questions as I'm going along, please either, put them in the chat or the question and answer box, and Jenny can stop me and I will be more than happy to try to answer them as we go along. So we will move down, and then again, we have more information on the warm-up exercise, what to expect, what to do, what to hand out, how to do it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then, as I indicated, we give you instructions on how to complete the warm-up activity, even virtually. Now, because it is bingo, and if you're doing it in person, you move around or whatever, you might want to develop another warm-up exercise. But we are suggesting that you do some type of warm-up exercise, and it just gives you basic instruction, things as trainers you already know. Check the audio and video settings on the platform to make sure everything is working properly. So this basically, as it indicates, are the training notes for the virtual setting. And we move on, and we have more information that we have provided. Get same information on what you need to know and information on the virtual warm-up. And then we sort of move into the next PowerPoint. So we're going to tell you that you need to display slide number 2. That's the target audience. Let the know what the target audience is. Then, we tell you that you need to be familiar with the goals and objectives so you can respond to their goals for attending the course. And then tell the participants as you move along where you are in the course materials, because we do provide handouts for the participants. And you'll see, we'll either be able to download them or provide them digitally, or you can print them out if you're still at a place where you print out your handouts. So we want you to know that we are there to help you along and to give you the information you need. So if you move down, please, James, you'll see that this tells you what the target audience is. Now, keep in mind that what we're going to show you, or what we're showing you, is actually the trainer's guide. So all the participants will be able to see is a slide that says target audience. And then we have suggested language for you to use to develop your information on the targeted audience. And then as we move down, we've provided information on administrative matters, how to review the training schedule, the facility layout, and then other administrative matters with the participants. We do want you to know that the curricula that we've devised can be covered in 2 days, usually for up to 30 participants. We don't recommend doing it for more than 30. It tends to take up a little bit more time. It sort of slows down the progress of the presentation. So we suggest that each 2-day session be limited to 30 people. And as we go down, you will see we have the training schedule, the facility, and policies, and you will see that that's not on a slide, and you'll be able to go through each of those with the participants. Now, I have a confession to make. We actually updated this from a previous presentation, and that is probably quite obvious in the fact that we indicate that you should discuss where the telephones are located. Obviously, that's not going to be of much concern to most of the people in your classes now, because everything is done through mobile phones. But the other things are still, we feel, quite relevant for you to discuss so that people will know what to expect. They won't be fidgeting around trying to figure out when the next break is, et cetera, et cetera. Lunch and snack facilities, if you are in a place where everybody's familiar, you may not have to address that. But if you're at a training center and people are just visiting there, if you happen to know where some restaurants are, within a few minutes or so of your facility, you may want to share that with them. Like I said, this is very basic because we wanted to cover all ranges of trainers, because we wanted everybody to be able to use the material. James, if you please. Thank you. Now, again, what you need to say and do. We provide everything that you need to do, including the format of the training manual. You talk about the modules that we're going to be using, how they follow a similar format. You can have the handouts as a module, tell them where they are. And we provide information such as exercises, background facts, suggested timeframes, etc. And then the what you need to know page is always included. When you are preparing the participant guide, we've made it very simple to let you know that you just need to print the odd number pages of the manual or to create an electronic file with just the odd numbers. Now, we just, and I apologize, I keep saying this, but it is true. We wanted this to be so easy to use that it would in fact be used. And we didn't want anyone to be intimidated and say, I've only been doing training a little bit of time. I don't really know how to do this. I'm not that familiar with military issues. We wanted it to be something that could be used. So that's the reason it's somewhat simplistic in its approach, but we hope helpful. So James, if you'll move down, please. So this is the participant handbook format. You'll notice it talks about the allocation, then the goals and objectives, the substantive content and how it's presented, talks about some of the exercises and handouts, the review and preview, and then we go back to more training notes. We're going to talk about the agenda, which is on the next page, and we're going to talk about some of the scheduled times. And James, if you will go to that page, please, you will notice that we have it broken down into suggested modules and times. Modify. You may not need breakfast in the morning. You may not need as much time for lunch. You may want to start at different times. It all depends on your situation, but we have found that this schedule or this breakdown for the 2-day period is somewhat effective, and it will get done everything that we hope you will be able to convey during those 2 days. It is a jam-packed 2 days. We share a lot of information, but we wanted you to have that. As we go down, we then do PowerPoint 4. And James, if you will go down to that page, please. That's the summary page. And again, what's on this page, what you're seeing now, they won't be able to see. But this page is designed to talk about what they know about the military, and then again, what we are hoping to accomplish. It's also at this point that you can do some exercises to get people more participatory. You can ask them about what they know about the military and working with the military. You know, you can share information and remind them that military members are found on bases, on ships, forts, stations, camps, and then other facilities such as U.S. embassies. I think sometimes we forget that we have military personnel sometimes at embassies, but this is a good time to remind them of that. And also you can talk about some of the facilities that are in your state. So as trainers, we suggest that you get to be, that you familiarize yourself with some of the military facilities that are in your state. A lot of times people, of course, will have specific questions about working with different facilities. And if you are at least familiar with them and where they're located, it will be helpful for you and for the class. So that is an overview of the trainer's guide and the introductory guide. And we are going to move over into the first module, the overview of the military. But again, if any of you have any questions, I'll stop for a few moments to allow you to ask those. Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing of any, so we'll move on. Overview of the military, and we will go on to the next. So as you approach the module, you will note that everything again is laid out for you, what your general discussion should be, informations about the module, the duration if possible, and then like I said, if you need to modify anything. But it talks about the equipment and supplies, the PowerPoint slides to be used, and then it talks about the handout. So in this section, which is the introductory session, you'll see that you basically are going to have 15 slides that you're going to have to be ready to present, and then the handouts that you will be sharing with the participants. And we'll go over some of those handouts because I found them very helpful. Again, remember that the only thing that the participant is seeing at this time is the slide. So as you get ready to introduce this module, you will again talk about some of the goals that the participants will become familiar with, some of the unique child support issues facing, some of the objectives. They'll be able to identify who makes decision over military personnel and places, realize some of the limitations that some of the military decision makers operate with. You know, a lot of times in working with the military, we become quite frustrated because we just know that they should be able to do it. They should be able to find him. They should be able to locate her. And sometimes that's just not possible, or it's going to take a little bit more time than we would like. But it sort of reminds the participants that those things are going to happen. more notes, exactly what you need to do or say. And as you go down, James, well, first of all, I want you to stop right there. Thank you. We do have a lot of resources embedded in this. Now, unfortunately, we are up to date only as to 2019. In our next version, we hope to update it again. But we do have a link to our webpage on working with military and working with veterans. And we also have a resource to a Department of Defense publication on demographics, because we want you to share information that sort of puts everything into context. For instance, as this indicates, that a Pentagon reported that approximately 36.5% of active duty members and 41% of reserves and National Guard members are parents. That's a big number. That's a lot of people. We're not saying that all of them have cases with the child support agencies, but we are saying that a lot of people are impacted by the military. Armed forces are still overwhelmingly male, meaning that most military parents are going to be fathers. But I think that we have all probably noticed over the years that we are dealing with more and more female military personnel. We move on to the next set of slides. You're going to see this slide that's going to be presented. And then that's where you talk about your demographics. You give numbers on the number of people who are in the military. It's a unique culture. It's present in every United States. It's present all across the world. And its members are frequently, as this indicates, on the move. So there is really a lot involved when you are dealing with military personnel, and we want to share it. And at the bottom of this page, we have another hyperlink, and I have checked all of these in preparation of this presentation, and they're still active. So there is the information from the DoD on some of the demographics, the profile of the military community. So they are still there and present for you to review. It tells you now that you need to go to slides 1.3 and 1.4. And when you get there, they will have those slides available if we continue to go down, and you will see that they have slides that are, visual and that sort of thing. And it talks about how deployments can last from 5 to 12 months. They talk about some of the average time spent in deployment. And they talk about the number of people who are married and about those who have children. So all of that is there. And then when you move down, we have another resource for you. We have a link to a study that was done on recent developments and experience from services and components. And so we provided links for you. So as you're preparing for this presentation and you want to find more information, or you just want to seem to be more familiar with it as you present it to your group, you do have these resources to go and read and prepare. Staggering numbers as you continue to discuss deployments, and we can move down. And this is what they will be saying, and this is what information you will have. It was interesting to me to learn that over 300,000 military people were deployed twice from post 9/11 to 2015, that several hundred thousand, or at least a couple 100,000, were deployed more than 3 times. We ask you to share with your participants information concerning physical and mental health, but also to talk about post-deployment earning of reservists. We know that reservists make a base amount, but when they're deployed, they earn more. How do you take that salary into consideration when calculating support? Is it something that you do for the time period that they're deployed and then do a review and modification when they come back? Is it such that by the time you get to do the modification, it will almost be mute? All those type of things we ask you to talk about with the participants so that they can consider so we can try to make the best possible choices for our parents who are in the military or who are involved with people who are in the military. We continue on as we get ready to go into slide 1-6. There we're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury. When you're considering working with people in the military, that's not something that we often consider, but it is a real concern. It's a concern for the people who are dealing with that, for them and their families, and it might, in fact, impact those returning military personnel, might impact their ability to maintain a job or even to get a job. So those are top things that we want to be considered when working with that community. We do have, again, links on PTSD and TBI that are there for you to consider. And as you move up, just like with the other slides, there's going to be a graphic slide that you're going to show, and then information on what you need to share with the participants. One question that we say you might want to consider is, how does one get medical coverage through TRICARE for a child born to unwed parents? And then if a member's on the National Guard or the Reserves and has been activated or notified of future activation, how do you transfer civilian income withholding order to DFAS? How do you ensure that the support order reflects the member's current income? All of these things we are talking about, and we have wrapped them around, PTSD and TBI, but still things that we think will be important as you continue your work with those families. And then we move down and we talk about the handouts that they will be given. The first is military acronyms, and it's the appendix for a glossary of military terms. And then we go to slide 1-7, organization of the military. And we'll get to that as James scrolls down. And we have it there. So we talk about all the acronyms that the military uses. We talk about the Department of Defense. We talk that we share, and I know that most of you know this, but I don't think that I all know that the U.S. Coast Guard is under the auspices of the Department of Homeland Security. We talk about the 3 military departments that are under DOD. The Department of Army, the Department of Navy, and the Department of the Air Force. And we talk about the military, we talk about the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps and where they fit into all of that. So we we want you to be aware of that. Here's something else to think about, which we suggest you mention, is that the military is a huge employer. Its workforce and budgets include that of many of the larger corporations, including Walmart, Exxon, Ford Motors, and General Motors. So it is a huge enterprise, and it does take some learning to be able to deal with them. And then as we go in further, we talk about some participatory things, if you move to the next slide, that you can do. You can ask participants to identify the location of military facilities. You can ask them about working with those. You can ask them if they've ever done any cases with those. So you talk about those. And then we tell you where you can get some type of updated information on DoD active service members. So that is all there as well. We continue with our discussion on military personnel, how they're mobilized, what they do. And so all of that is provided to you. Okay, we're just moving right along here. Now, our next slides, if you will go on, please, James, are going to talk about how the military is divided. We want people to be familiar, so to speak, with the organizational chart for the militaries. We talk about beginning with the individual family member who may be Sergeant Smith. Then he is in a company. That company is usually under a battalion. The battalion is, below a brigade. We have the division, and we have the corps size units, and then we have the combatant command, to the military head of the service, to the civilian secretary of the department, to the secretary of DOD, and then ultimately to the president. So we provide all of that so that the organization of the military is readily available, and you can talk about that as well. And again, everything that you see under this particular slide is there for you as a trainer to share. Then we talk about military authority, and we can move on. And here is this slide for the trainers, but then we'll go to the slide, next slide, please, for the participants. And there, what we want the participants to realize is that rank and authority, although related, are separate concepts. Ranks are designation given to personnel that represent in part their responsibility and authority within the military hierarchy. Rank structures among the services vary slightly and sometimes are a source of confusion. So we try to explain that to them. And on the previous page, you don't have to go back, James, we do have a website that they can go to. It's from 2021. I think it's the most updated one we have now, where it will give a little bit more information about ranks and authority. So that's there. We talk about where commanders get their authorities from laws, regulations, and customs, or, that they can be inherent. So we have that information. And as we go down, we find ourselves moving more to just some basic things, because now we've given them all of this information, who is, in the hierarchy, who things are go. And now we get to a question as we move down. What happens when the military person doesn't respond? Who is it that we go to? So this gives you points for communicating some responses to that. For instance, if the member fails to respond to communication attempts, contact the first line of the military commander for help. Don't go right to the top, because you really are probably not going to get anywhere. So one of the reasons we provide this hierarchy is because we want the participants to know to start at just the next level above the person that you're trying to reach. So that's provided there. And we move on, and we have more talking points for you to develop for when a member fails to respond. And all of that is there. It gives you suggestions on how to correlate that to maybe civic responsibility, with like the mayor being in charge, et cetera, et cetera. And again, tells you to try to recognize the limitations of some of the people that you might be dealing with, but always try to talk to them in a manner that is pleasant, not threatening, but just general information. And a lot of people will know this, but for those who are new to working with military, we thought that that'd be very helpful. And then we're sort of going to start wrapping up this session. So we want you to try to get the participants engaged. So we say that some of the things you can do is to ask them to tell you about some of the best practices they've had when they've been dealing with the military, some of the things that are worked for them. If they have point of contacts for some of the local military bases or facilities, you can ask them to talk about those, to share those. And we suggest that you put them on a flip chart or a whiteboard or something so that everybody would have access to them. And then we move on, and it tells you quite clearly, we want you to start displaying 111. Now the next chart as we move on, and you will see it there. And it talks about when it becomes necessary to involve a commander. So 5 points we want, them to take away with while dealing with someone is explain thoroughly. Tell them who you are, what your responsibilities are. Talk to them about what you are trying to do. You have a child support case. You're trying to do something that will benefit this person's child. You don't want to be threatening because, let's face it, threatening a military person is probably just a hollow threat. It's not going to go anywhere. You want the situation as human as possible. Talk about the children you're trying to assist or trying to help. Move up the chain of command, not down, but always be respectful, reasonable, and understanding. So all of those notes are there for you to develop as you feel comfortable with, as your familiarity is. So we've done that. And then we move on to one of our final slides in this part of the module, and that is slide 112. We can go down to 112. We have a lot of notes for this section, so you'll have to modify them as you like. So we can move on down to slide 112, and we talk about military resources, and we try to make the participants familiar with the installation command legal officers, the family advocacy and family life centers, the identification card facilities, the medical treatment facilities, and the internet. So we try to let them know that there are a variety of resources available to them. Some of the larger installations do have the family life centers. We talk about, where they can get the DEERS card, the Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System cards, and then talking about moving up the ladder. We give you information on each of these facilities and how they could be used to assist you. Then we suggest that you continue slowing that 112 slide. And at that same time, you're going to be getting some resources. So if you move down, please, James. Yeah, we're going to keep going because we're still talking about the assistance office and the JAG office. So we can continue to go down, please. And then we sort of give you, we're still talking about the websites. Here's a place to stop, please. We do provide this slide for you to give to the participants, which will get you to DFAS, which is the address for sending an income withholding order. So that's something that they would need to know. It tells you exactly where to go to click on the garnishment information link, and then that's going to take you to where you can click on a link for child support and alimony. So that slide is provided in the handouts, and it's something that will probably be very useful for those who are very new to working with the military. Then we go on, we talk about the military rules and regulations. And if you would move to the next slide, please, James. We let them know that the military is rule-driven, that each branch of the military has its own regulatory schemes. And then we skipped it, but you should know on the training guide, we do have reference to all of the regulatory codes for all of the military units. So they are there as well. So if someone is really interested on what the rules and regulations are, we have provided that in a link. And as a trainer, you will be able to present it as well. Okay, and now we move to one of the final slides, and it is a wrap-up slide. And we have provided an exercise for you to give the participants. So they will be able to maybe let you know if they grasp what you wanted them to learn. It will talk about some of the topics that have been developed in this module or discussed in this module. And then it will sort of give you a preview of what's going to come up in the next training session. So that is a summary of one of the modules, and we have 9 of them, as I've indicated. And all of them are going to have appropriate handouts, the slides, etc. And now James is going to go back, and we're going to look at some of the handouts that are going to be associated with this first module. But again, let me stop to see if there are any questions or any comments that have been made during this part of the presentation.
Janice, there was one question in the chat asking about if the files are only available as PDFs or if there's or if people are allowed to alter any content to their trainings.
As far as I know, and James can let me know if this is correct or not, as far as I know, they're only available in PDF context. But like I indicated, although, you know, this works for the trial that we did, we understand that some people are more advanced, some people have a little bit more knowledge. And if you want to vary slightly, I don't think that there's any objection to that, but we just ask you to stay with the suggested format as much as possible. It's all in PDF. And James is showing us that there. Okay, so the last thing we wanted to share with you today, like I said, are just some of the handouts. You will notice that they all have a table of contents, and this is what's included here. And just wanted to show you some examples of those, and as James is getting there. The first thing you're going to notice is the acronyms. We all know that the military is almost like child support. There are so many acronyms, it's hard to keep up. But we've tried to address the major ones, the BAH, the BAHRT, the BAS. And so, you know, you can be prepared to talk about those and how they, you will be able to discuss later how they are incorporated into calculating the guidelines. We, if you'll continue to scroll up. So we have several pages just of some of the lingo, some of the language. We even have POTUS there for those who may not be thinking that he's involved in the military. Here's a chart that I think is just really, really useful because it goes over the military ranks and grades. And you will see it talks about how O grades are for officers, E grades are for enlisted personnel, and W are for warrant officers. And it sort of compares each military branch and how those same people are addressed. For instance, in 01, for the Army, Air Force, and Marine Corps are all second lieutenants. But for the Navy and the Coast Guard, they're ensigns. And it continues like that. So the first page, we talk about the officers, how they are dressed and what grades they are, and what's the equivalent of each grade. Then we go into the warrant officers' pay grades. It tells you what they are. It says they hold warrants from their service secretary and are specialists and expert in certain military technologies, capabilities. So it explains what they are. It gives their grade and their list. And then they tell how each branch addresses them. You will notice that in the Navy, there are warrant officers. There are warrant officers across the other, but for the Coast Guard, there is no equivalent of a warrant officer. So that's just a little something. And there is no equivalent in the Coast Guard for a Chief Warrant Officer 5. So we continue on. Then we address the enlisted pay grades, your sergeants, your petty officers, etc. And there is an extended list of that. So we list all of those out, and I think those can be very helpful when trying to compare and trying to figure out. And then what we provide as a handout is a list, which we're current as of 2020. In our next iteration, we hope, of course, to update these, but I think I was able to check all of these, and these are still current links. So we have the Department of Defense, we have different military accounting services that we've provided. We have information on military compensation. We have the Dictionary of Military and Associate Terms. And as James continues to move up, you'll see that we have tried to just provide helpful links, even to the point that we've broken them down by the different military divisions. So we have all of that available. Then just other useful military websites, resources and support to active duty military one source, and then the Yellow Ribbon website, which is reintegration program to help families who are deployed reunite and have successful. We have, again, links to our website. which will provide you with information on other things we're doing to work with veterans and then the Department of Labor. And so that basically are the handouts that are associated with that module. And then we do a final exercise, just true or false. Again, you don't have to ask these questions. If you think there are other questions you'd like to ask, other things you'd like to touch on to see if the participants have grasped or obtain knowledge about, you can vary these questions, but just a review exercise that we've developed that might be helpful. And that would be the end of the first session after you sort of talk through that module and talk to those handouts. That would be the end. And so each module, thank you, James, I think that's the end of that. Each module goes through the same thing. And this is what they are. Locate procedures, military personnel, the Service Members Civil Relief Act, obtaining evidence from the military, establishment procedure, enforcement procedures. And then we are now, of course, more concerned than we were in prior times about parenting time, custody issues, and then maybe developing collaborations with those who serve us. So all of those topics are included and would be addressed during that 2-day session that you set out. Other than that, I think that if we go back to that first home page, James, that you showed us, I did want to point out one other resource that's somewhat recent that we have done for military families. Give us a moment. The Handbook for Military Families. That's an excellent guide. It was done in 2022. It gives a lot of the same information, but just more so for our customers as opposed to workers. It contains a lot of good information. It has a lot of the same helpful links. It talks about what will happen if you have a hearing and perhaps the other party isn't there. So it's quite extensive. You can see James sort of jumped in the middle and it's already 88 pages, but that's another resource that's been recently developed that we hope will be helpful to you. And that is really all that I have for you. And again, if you have any questions, please just let me know. Oh, James, someone wants to know if you can show them how to locate it again on the website, please. So there you are. You go to the Child Support Services webpage, our main webpage. You go down to Working With under Child Support Professionals. And then it will ask you which group you want to do or you're talking about working with. And under military and veterans, you can go there. And there will be the Working with Military on Child Support Matters. That's the presentation that we just went through, and it will be all there. So you can do that. Or if you want to, you can go through the information bar and just type it in under the search function, military, and it will pop up that way as well. And so that concludes our demonstration of Working with Military Trainers Guide. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. We finished with a little bit of extra time. How about that?
Yeah, we'll take it. Well, there's a lot of thank yous coming in, and I would also like to echo those sentiments as well. Thank you so much to Janice and James for this presentation. I know it was really interesting and helpful to me to hear about, and so I'm sure that many of you also have the same feelings that way too. I'm going to just pop our kind of helpful links in the chat again, just in case you missed it the first time around. And I'll make sure to provide some of the links that Janice and James had presented today in our kind of follow up with the call recording. So those will be available after today's call as well. And definitely, if you have any more questions, if you think of any more questions later, like I said before, you can always feel free to send an email my way, and I can put you in touch and kind of pass those questions along. But you provided so many resources and such helpful information, so I think that definitely people will be able to find anything that they're looking for, especially on that website.
And that's what we're hoping. And again, as you start doing this, and we hope you will do this because we think it's important that we learn to work effectively with the military. If you start using this training guide and you find something that might be useful, something that you think we can use in our updated version, please share that with us. We would really like to have that information.
Well, I'm not seeing any questions come through. But again, don't hesitate to reach out if you do think of anything after the fact. And thank you again so much to Janice and James. This was excellent.
Well, thank you. We're glad you enjoyed it. Take care.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
I was waiting till the end, so I
Go
have
ahead.
a question. Oh, hi, how are you? My name is Juliana. I just started back in April. So I am actually retired military, so I know a lot about it. So my question is, because I was having trouble logging in, so I think I logged in 3 minutes after. So this training, I want to like be specified. Will that be to like what kind of the trainers in the military or like the families in the military who are like wanting child support? Like who is the training especially for? ACS, one stop, one
No.
source?
This training is for child support workers who deal with military families.
Okay.
So this is who we are trying to reach. We're trying to help child support workers be more effective in their work with the military personnel. And one of the reasons we devised it this way, because we want them to be able to take into consideration everything that is sort of attached to a military family. And that could be deployments, that could be post-traumatic stress disorder or TBI. We want them to talk, be able to think about the fact that they move around a lot, that it may be difficult. So we want them to be able to effectively address everything associated with the military and not just look at it as what is your salary, the basic guideline questions. So it's designed to help trainers teach child support workers more about the military and how to effectively deal with them in providing services to the families. We want to, of course, get support for the children, but we do want to be mindful of the circumstances that might, be involved in that. So this is for the trainers. The second sheet or the second document we provided, the handbook, more for individuals who are going through child support cases. It answers a lot of questions about what will happen in court. How do I find someone and I don't know exactly which military base they're, at? Or, the reservist who's returning home, whose income has been decreased now because they're no longer deployed. How do I go about getting them out of vacation? So the first presentation was geared toward child support workers.
Yeah, that's what I saw, yes.
Yeah, and the handbook is geared more toward people who do, in fact, have their own child support case.
Right, so my other question was will a worker have access into DFAS or will they be able to talk to someone to DFAS to explain what the LAS, which will be their pay stubs, and go into detail?
In this presentation, and we did not go into that portion of it, one of the modules does deal with reading LESs, I believe. So
Right.
you will be able to tell the child support worker how to read the LES, how to look for the BAH, how to look for the BAS, the BAQ, whether or not they're included in income when you're calculating support. So all of those things are addressed in other modules, but with an hour, we can't go through the 9
Okay.
modules. But if you go through the individual modules, you should be able to locate that information.
Right. Yeah. Because I did like the whole, when you did say that the first thing that you call is a commander, because it's like the first line supervisor, and like, yes, please. Because that's the first thing, like that's the first person that you will call.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them sometimes they get so busy with so many cases and things, and sometimes they can be deployed or out of mission. So if you don't hear from them, then you call the second person, which will be a
Mm-hmm.
battalion commander, and
Mm-hmm.
it will get happening. It will get like right then and there. Like
Right.
they get, once they get a call from their boss, because they wouldn't like getting a call from their boss.
Well, thank you. That's
Yes.
helpful.
So that was all. That was all I wanted to say. But
No,
I just
thank you.
wanted to know if they will get access to their LESs, to their pay stubs.
Well, I don't know if we get access to individual LESs initially, but at some point during the case, that's probably in the life of the child support case, that's probably going to be available. And so when it does become available, we want them to know how to read it and what information to look for. So we do address that in the presentation.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you both again. This was
You're welcome.
really, really great. And,
well, good. I'm glad it was helpful.
yeah, I hope everybody on the call has a great rest of their day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for inviting us.